Nearly perfect.
Nearly perfect.
With an outdated intro. Good morning, everyone. Or good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Adrian?
I'm fine. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Oh, been a busy week. Kiddo's been sick last week, so still recovering from that, but all good now.
You have a lot of police in your area. Every time we start.
Oh no, we're on the street. We're on the main street here that leads towards the main hospital. So this is their primary route. That's why you hear sirens so often.
We're talking about PRs again. So PRs were one of the first topics we were talking about. Actually, how to get rid of them. And we were early with that one back then. At that time, it was hard to find someone who's actually pro removing the idea of a asynchronous review process, which PR is mainly used for, and together with the branching techniques, Git flow, blah 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 blah. We've talked about that a lot. So I think the opinion of actually from my side is it never changed. So I'm still the person thinking you shouldn't have those, and or even if you have something like that, then it's more or less a synchronized process you do with your team in the moment you actually need to have that, and not making a big process out of it. But it is not a direct topic from today, so you have prepared something like the 3 things you can do to actually improve the PR, or I don't know,
or get rid of them.
It's a little bit like the old direction with a new spin. So talk a little bit, or tell us a little bit about those ideas and how you came to that, how you found it, and why do you think it's a good thing to have those?
Well, first off, I want to mention that even like the thing on everybody's mind is AI development, and for better or for worse, PRs are sort of being used for AI-driven workflows as well. So PRs are one of those things that aren't going away anytime soon. So you could, on this show, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about whether you should use PRs or should not use PRs, or how they're good, how they're bad. Like I think we've discussed that at length, and honestly, that's more of a continuous delivery and continuous integration conversation. Suffice to say that you will encounter PRs. In 2026, working with Claude, working with Codex, working with AI tools, working on SaaS or any kind of other software-related business, you will encounter PRs, for better or for worse. So it's helpful to have some fundamentals in place about how to work with them, especially if you yourself are more AI savvy and you found your PRs to be ballooning a little bit more, so that they become a little bit larger, or somebody on your team is vibe coding or producing what you might consider slop, and as a result you get all of these AI assisted or cloud coded, vibe coded large PRs that you're expected to review, and now you're in review hell. I am scouring the subreddit experienced devs for what people are complaining about, basically, in our industry. And PRs are always high up there. It's always relationship with management, or stakeholder management, promotion cycles and salaries and recruitment, and whether people use LeetCode or not, and PRs, strong-based development, continuous integration, QA teams. Those are always top 3 things that developers complain about. So we're going to talk about basically how to set a powerful frame, a powerful mindset, and a powerful attitude towards PRs, so that you can show up productively regardless if you're the reviewer or the author. I'm primarily taking this from my experience helping teams, coaching teams, engineering organizations in managing their culture, in their engineering culture. And that also has to do with how we incentivize change with regards to how they adapt their workflows, how they change their workflows, and how they go about really stuffing code from their brain into their through their pipeline into their production services.
What is the number one thing people complain about PRs?
The number one thing is when people block them. It's like when they get ignored, they get blocked, when there's this back and forth of I approved it, but there were some suggestions, so I fixed it, and now I need to approve it again. So when it gets stuck, or when it gets ignored, or
backlog building.
Yeah, like there's a backlog in the backlog, like when the PR itself becomes another project management outlet. That's what gets people riled up the most, because of course it incentivizes people to multitask, and then you're multitasking because you have a PR. You're probably working on something else downstream that depends on something that might be in the PR, and somebody else is doing the same thing with your PR, and it gets really nasty real quick once if you don't stop this. If you don't have like an exit strategy for this really quickly, and most people don't, most engineers don't, most engineering managers don't. They don't know how to deal with this. They just see, oh, we have 40 open PRs. What should we do about that? It's like, oh, guys, can you focus more on reviewing a little bit more? Right? That's usually the ask, rather than saying, no, guys, like we need 0 PRs by 3 p.m. Please, now, right? Because if you want to merge them, just delete them, right? And then people get upset, and then that will get the ball rolling forward. I'm watching Substack, by the way. Hey, Shay. Hey, Jose. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy to interject with your live questions. And I'm seeing notifications on YouTube. RB, do you have some YouTube questions? Oh, no, we have 2 YouTube viewers. I'm sorry. Okay, cool. I got the notification mixed up. So number 1 is focus, right? So number 1 is the purpose of the PR. The purpose of the PR is to just establish 2 things. Is it useful to merge the PR? How is it useful? Do we want it? And if you've established that it is it safe to merge? So that's it. The PR is not there to express your opinion about design. It's not there to express your opinion about the other person, about the author. It's not there to pip somebody. It's not there to expedite some. It's not there to discuss project priorities of, it's like, hey, please refactor this. It's like, I can't refactor this. We need this feature real fast. No, if the reviewer says please refactor, then refactor. right? So and this goes both ways. Maybe you're the reviewer, not the author. You're not there to nitpick about design choices. You're there to help the author establish, why is this useful? How is it useful? Once we agree that it is useful, when will it become safe to merge? It doesn't need to be working. It doesn't need to cure cancer or feed hungry children in Africa. What it needs to do is to be safe to merge. And then when it's safe to merge and it's useful, we merge it. Because the problem with PRs is when they get stuck. If you want to do refactors, if it's safe to merge it, and then the refactor from trunk. Like, don't, if the PR contains a feature, don't give refactoring advice. Unless the person is stuck building the feature and they won't be able to make progress unless they refactor, right? So that you got to be careful about that. Right? We only suggest refactoring advice in PRs if the person has opened the PR because they are stuck, because they need help, right? But that's part of the why is it useful, right? Like, why is the PR useful? Well, the PR is useful because this person uses it as an outlet to seek help, or to seek a domain expert's opinion, or to seek a DBA's opinion, right? So you always got to figure out, okay, why was it opened? And in tools like Bitbucket and GitHub, you will also notice that sometimes people open draft PRs because they want early review, or they use it as a pair programming tool, right? So they, rather than opening a real PR, they open up a draft PR to tell you that, hey, I want your help in co-developing this, rather than a review.
Do you like that?
Yeah, if it's short-lived. Of course, with all of these tools and little gimmicks, what's really important is to make sure that it's in small doses. They can be helpful, they can be handy, they gamify the whole experience.
There is a question mark missing.
Martin, yeah. Hey, Martin. Martin is asking on Substack, hey, even if the code quality is not according to the standards, yes, even if the code quality is not according to the standards. See, your code quality should be part of the pipeline, right? So if your code quality is standardized, then if the code is not up to standards, then the pipeline would be red. So you couldn't merge it. Or you could merge it and you couldn't deploy it, right? So I'm happy merging a PR that is not up to standard if the pipeline is then red, right? So we merge a red, and then that prevents us from deploying, and obviously we shouldn't deploy because it's not up to standard. And then it gets fixed in 5 minutes. I'm okay with that, right? Like, if what it takes is merging a red to get somebody's help, to get somebody's attention, sure. I mean, is it kind? Is it rude? Yes, it's rude. But if it moves the needle, sure. But if it's not up to standard and it requires a human's subjective opinion to check if it's up to standard, then it's not standard. Like, the only thing that is standardized in your pipeline is the thing that the pipeline checks. It has to be automated. It can't be, what is Dennis's opinion? Like, if it's Dennis's opinion and that's why we do review, then it's not standardized, right? So that this whole, is it up to standard, should be, is it automated standard? If the standard is unautomated, then it might as well not be. Then let me put it differently. If your standards require humans in the loop, then your code quality standards are lower than you think. Or you might have, human walking guardrails, which is worse, because then you create the illusion that you have a high standard, but really you're just slowing the process down because you didn't automate it. Cool, nice. Okay, we got the conversation flowing. Like, we got the right audience. So I'm glad it wasn't clickbait. I mean, I'm glad we actually were on point with the title, and I really like the title you picked.
It
Adrian.
was clickbait.
It was a bit, but just a little bit.
I hate PRs. This is the reason why I want. So the most stuff you say is actually correct if you have a developer team of 200 people across different locations. Maybe PR is a good tool. Otherwise, get to the other desk and do the refactoring there, please. Not in a PR.
Yeah, because the one advice I can hang on, Martin.
You posted it.
Yeah, Jose has a comment. I use draft PRs to just trigger the Copilot review to address any issues before a human review.
Yeah, that can also be fine. Like if you have agents somewhere in the pipeline, it can be helpful to open up draft PRs.
Next one is Martin talking from the front-end perspective. Love the front-end perspective. Some PRs break accessibility and there are no accessibility tests or checks in the pipeline.
Well, the answer to that is you should have accessibility checks in the pipeline.
That's a form of standardization and quality management.
Yes, like if it's standard, like in the US, if you need to have like ARIA strictness, browsers nowadays are strong enough to, like not everything, but the primary things that need to be there structurally for accessibility, they can be automated and they should be automated. If you haven't automated then blocking a PR because somebody needs to do a manual accessibility test, I think it's silly.
Those are the typical things you fix anyway afterwards. That's the roll forward idea. Just make sure that you become better at it every time you need to fix something, and don't make this external dependency of a roadblock which you need to set up every time, a dependency of your developer, because then you expect it to every time, and you will never get over that obstacle because you put that obstacle as a part of your CI/CD action. So, but just do it. Right now, I just said before the meeting, a colleague told me that, hey, an end-to-end test failed. End-to-end test run in production against production after deployment of production. Deployment was okay, end-to-end test not. And there was just a hint, can you take a look later if something has changed? No one expects something. Everyone is confident. No one sees an issue there. We will take a look in an hour, something like that.
Yeah, maybe it's flaky. Maybe
do we need to add more flaky retries? These kind of things. Playwright can do this.
Yeah.
There's no reason to panic, especially developer said or engineer said that wasn't actually a part which affected the test, so it shouldn't be a change. No worries. Let's check it later. Production looks good. These kind of things. And this is how we treat it anyway. So, you need to build up a form of confidence. You cannot only rely on. So there are people saying if the pipeline is green, everything is green. I'm not 100% there, especially as a front-end person.
That's not the point.
Yeah. You need to have you need to be aware of the process. What have I changed? And I need to follow my change until it's on production. And if I say can't be something serious, because I have just made a text change and I saw that change and then I go for it, I don't need a review for this. I'm confident. Even if the end-to-end test fails, I don't panic. I just go ahead with my work. That's the point. Actually, my point. Okay, next topic. Have we actually tackled already one of those, or was this a general version?
This was number one. So the purpose of the PR is to help the author establish how it is useful. Maybe it contains an important feature. Maybe it unblocks. Maybe they're asking for help. Maybe they want a subject matter expert to chime in. Maybe they want accessibility help, right? Open it up, have it reviewed. Once it is useful, merge it when it's safe to merge. Safe to merge being everything that needs to be green is green. It gets the job done. And then you refactor. Or if accessibility is not part of your pipeline, review it to see how many accessibility regressions you have, merge it, and then continue working on improving the accessibility issues. If that's happening in your pipeline, then I would, if you're measuring accessibility from 0 to 100, if production isn't 100 right now, then your process already has proof that it doesn't work. So, why would you block that on the PR stage? Clearly, there's an issue in the production stage, so the PR stage is already too late because the developers don't know how to build something 100 out of 100 on their first go. So clearly, it might take multiple iterations. Maybe accessibility is such a thing that you'll only get right in multiple iterations to production, right? Maybe it is such a bar. I'm speculating. Martin, if you have any more comments, or if you agree or disagree, just let us know. Any engagement, it will be appreciated. Don't worry. There's no right or wrong answers here. I do appreciate the discourse. Number 2. So another framing that is very useful towards your relationship with pull requests, with PRs, or teams that follow PRs, and even if you're trunk based, is please set a boundary, a personal one. Set a personal boundary towards large PRs.
What do you mean by that?
Just have a clear understanding of what too large is. Right? So, and then, because if you're the author, right, then set a boundary. If you're across the boundary, split your work and go to production. If you're the reviewer, if the PR is past the boundary, tell them, hey, I'm not going to review this. You can tell them either you will reject it, or you can just tell them you're not going to review it because it's too large. Then offer them help if they need help splitting up the PR, or if they'll merge it and take the risk and they just want some refactoring advice. Sure. But be very clear. Don't shout your boundary. Don't argue your boundary. I think it's too large. You think it's not too large. No, there's 2 people involved. If you're the author, then you need to follow your own boundary when you open the PR. And if you're the reviewer, check boundary, lines of code, or whatever large might be, number of files, lines of code. Just to know what your boundary is, and then enforce it. Then tell somebody, hey, I can't. My brain goes to mush if I see 200 files changed.
Yeah.
Please split PR. Please split PR by the primary top level folders, if that's possible. Right? Give them some advice, and then get out of that process. Because arguing it, trying to do some heroic about going deep and reviewing the whole PR, it's pointless, because if you know that you'll be inefficient reviewing a large PR, they can do changes to it faster than you can review it, and then you won't be able to keep up, and then you need advanced tools from either GitHub's stack diffing. That's like a private preview feature now on GitHub, and large organizations like Google and Meta have built their own stack diffing platforms where you can build a PR on top of another PR on top of another PR on top of another PR, so people expedite this process. Nothing healthy will come out of this process. Have a boundary, set it, communicate it. Don't argue, don't shout, don't try to convince other people. Everybody on your team will have different boundaries. Just communicate yours. If Adrian has a boundary of 2,000 lines of code, and my boundary is 200 lines of code, then when he opens a PR, he needs to do it to my boundary. Otherwise, I won't review it if he wants my review, right? And the other way around as well. If his boundary is 200, my boundary is 2,000, no problem. But I won't encourage him to make it larger, obviously. If you can keep the PR small, keep it small.
My boundary is as large as my token window the company pays for.
There we go. That's what we're talking about. Yes, love huge PRs and PR help.
So if you create something with AI, it will be reviewed with AI, but then please do it yourself and don't let others do your work in that moment.
Yeah. That's also a good boundary. Yeah.
So you should have reviewed your work anyway before you do that. So there is others are not there to take a look. The first look is not by someone else; it's always by yourself.
So there is that aspect of sometimes the review won't be taken directly. Sometimes the author, me as a coach, what I've been seeing more often lately is engineers will take my written feedback and feed it to Claude, and then Claude will do an iteration before they then review it themselves. So rather than understanding it, they will just feed my comments to Claude, and then they will try to do something with it, and then we have a conversation. Whatever you're doing, just optimize for human connection and getting stuff out to production. If you have to choose process-wise between a perfect PR, perfect code, and a process that enables and gets you closer with your comrades, with your peers, co-workers, team members, stakeholders, subject matter experts, I would say always optimize for the one that improves relationships, even if it means that the PR isn't perfect.
I love that.
Right? So focus on pro relationship nurture, even if it costs quality boxes on the PR. But this whole, like, if you go too extreme on the PR needs to be perfect, there will be a body count. There will be, burnt bridges. There will be people who are pissed off by nitpicking, people who feel pipped, people who feel that it's too aggressive, people who feel that it's like, yes, like high security, pharmaceutical, healthcare, like a machine that can crush somebody or can electrocute them and kill them potentially. Yes, in those kinds of heavily regulated, heavily safety, space grade, military, defense.
Yeah.
Sure, yes, there are exceptions, but the vast majority of people are not in those scenarios. And even when they are, you often can do both. Like, especially if it's really important, you should still focus on the interpersonal relationships and tick all the boxes rather than one at the expense of the other. Like doing this sort of almost, autistic level that I got my PR, now I can play God with your code. That is usually what drives the sort of the toxicity incentives inside a team culture, engineering culture, or maybe just that sort of remote work culture where people feel alienated. They open up a PR and then they're like, oh, people will see my code and I'll be judged. And, 9 times out of 10, when you open up PR, people are looking for problems, right? So it will be uncomfortable. And it doesn't have to be like that.
You shouldn't look for problems. You should look for giving good feedback. That's there's a slight difference between just finding issues to talk about and try to improve the situations, because often you can actually talk about something which isn't an issue, and it's actually much more worth talking about this. For example, like, you can do this, but if we do that like this,
Yeah.
I had that today. There was a review going on. We have the typical thing in large systems. With e-procurement and e-commerce, you have address components like invoice address, shipping book address, personal address, blah, blah, blah. Those addresses are always the same thing. These are unified forms. And there was a developer who is now starting working on these as well.
Mm-hmm.
And was seeing that somewhere else and was copying that into something new, while everyone else is using a port and just builds an adapter around that port and uses that one. Both are working, both are okay, and we agreed now to push that to production. And next week, when everyone is around there, we refactored that and reuse the port instead. So that is what I mean. It's not an issue. It is not a problem. It passes. It's okay. It works. It could even work forever, but it is reducing code quality over time. It's repetition. We don't really need it. There's some complexity to these fields because of functionality. So it makes sense to reuse it. And that is something which you can do later as well, or you can do it on the spot, depending on how you handle it. But if you need to get it online because there was a time constraint, we just did it, and it's okay. Just keep it in mind and have those kind of conversations as well. Not everything is find the mistakes a person did. Right? That's the point about it.
But a lot of people are going into, I got this comment this week from one of the engineers that I'm coaching, and it went something along the lines of, it was a bit tongue-in-cheek about, I'll open a PR tomorrow and then you can tell me about all the mistakes that I did. And I stopped for a moment. It's like, interesting. Then I asked, is that what you want? Like, do you want me to go looking for mistakes, or do you want me to go looking for the
roast my PR?
Yeah, like, because if you want a roast, because some people love that. Some people love, hey, here's my stuff, please roast it, because I want to expedite how quickly I grow as an engineer. But some people, they don't really have a stance. Like I have to mention, PRs. GitHub is a new technology. We got PRs from GitHub. And GitHub came to be mainstream.
Wasn't it Jira? Not Jira Atlassian?
No, so there was
It's not-
Crucible. Yeah, Crucible and Fisheye sort of introduced that
Because
that merged before code review.
merge request.
But it was such an expensive enterprise grade license that a lot of teams didn't use it, right? So GitHub came into mainstream at about 2011, 2012. And then afterwards, what people took from GitHub was that sexy, simple interface to merging branches. And then adopted PRs later into their intra-team workflows outside of GitHub, right? And other tools. So PRs are, as a technology, are, they're like maybe 15 years old, less, right? So, which in the context of software, in the context of technology, is like nothing. It's like a toddler. They're like these new, fresh thing, and then 5 years later, everybody acts as if PRs are the sort of mandatory thing in every process.
Yeah, that's strange. That's really strange. Like this treating it as an industry standard.
Yeah.
Just because they saw it somewhere else and suddenly it's there as well, and everyone treats that without questioning it in any way. That's what I very often see. Is like, but if we remove it, we have no chance to work together anymore and review things and feedback. And I think you can still speak.
I was reviewing code without PRs. You don't need PRs to review code. You also don't need PRs to praise somebody, and you don't need PRs to pip somebody. PRs are just this additional thing that a developer can reach for in order to get feedback, in order to involve somebody in their process, but they're not a very efficient tool. That's why if what you want is efficiency, then you need to figure out how to get rid of PRs, not how to do them correctly. Shaw, how do you Shaw? I think you're British. Like, it's Shaw, right? It's not Shia, unless you're Irish. Like, is that an Irish name or is that British? Forgive my ignorance. Claude must know this. Okay, hang on. I got a YouTube. Let's see.
I don't find the window. There's it. Shay.
It's Shay. It's Shay. Okay. See, I knew I got it wrong. It's always the Irish. It's Shay. Okay. Or do you mean literally Shay? Sorry. Okay.
You can open up a pull request to review.
I'm being rude. No, but Shay had a question. We found that people were reviewing the solution to the problem at PR way too late, and wait. Sorry for paraphrasing. We found that people were reviewing the solution to the problem at pull request, which is way too late, and the smell. Push that out and move to the front of the engineering effort like an RFC plan that gets reviewed before starting. So yeah, so that brings us to the previous point, right? Like the purpose of the PR is to figure out how something is useful. And if you can't determine that, then not only do you reject the PR, but you also stop the engineering effort. Because you need to go back further. Like, you need to reject it back 2 steps in the pipeline. Like, you need to go back to that. Hey, like, why are we building this? Did we get the priorities wrong? Did we get our appetite wrong? Did we scope it to a week and what we really wanted was scoped to hours? Because that's what usually gets misinterpreted between stakeholders and engineers, when engineers are building something that takes months and stakeholders say they want it the next afternoon. Like, it's not that the stakeholders want the engineers to work faster, but they disagree fundamentally on the investment, on how expensive of a solution they want. Right? So stakeholders will always want to control the
how much investment, how much engineering resource investment happens. Not estimation of that perfect thing, when will it be done and why isn't it sooner, but rather, okay, can I get something useful with little investment? That's what I would like right now, right? Like I would like to dip my toe and see and put it in front of users. Do we need to invest 2 months in order to get a little bit of feedback? If it's going to be a little bit of feedback, a little bit of revenue, I would like my investment to also be a little bit, or at least a function of a little bit. A function of a little bit could be medium, and the function of medium could be high, right? So, but it has to have like a relationship. There must be some kind of correlation between the perceived return on investment of the stakeholder and the actual engineering effort. So yes, so PRs generally, if you got a mismatch on the purpose of the work, or if you see a mismatch in the engineer's ability, or maybe a subject matter expert misunderstanding, then definitely put a stop to it. Adrian, is everything okay?
I plugged my headphones in because they.
And he's gone. Okay. He's back. He's back. Yeah, you're not on stage, Adrian. Just waiting until you. Hey.
I don't know what that is.
It
I
happened to me
just
last
plugged
week.
in my Bluetooth, but because I have a battery problem, I don't know exactly what that is. So somehow Restream decided to reconnect me. I don't dare to change anything right now.
So, but part of also what Shay mentioned is that when you find a problem and it's too late, we push it back and we discuss an RFC. Part of the discussions, I often see this as staff councils or in sort of PIPs, when managers are sort of helping somebody who's about to get fired improve, or to take the feedback more seriously, or in sort of internal trainings with mid-level and senior engineers. Well, what I see missing the most is that when we create a plan, the plans, was that me beeping? Was that you beeping? Something beeped.
Do I beep it?
I don't know.
Wait a second. I try something different. Let me quickly check it out.
We can't hear you now. No. Anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back now. Cool. I can hear you now. So in trainings, what I noticed to be missing the most is that there aren't enough written down conclusions or written down steps towards what trade-offs are we doing to make this happen faster. People usually discuss what are the estimates, how should we do it, what do we want, what do we not want. But what is really important when it comes to RFCs, to planning, is to write down, okay, what are we doing? Like, what trade-off are we making to finish the project sooner? And that needs to be written down. And it needs to be written down to, like, compared to what, right? Like, we're not doing this because right now we want this level of fidelity. We want this level of quality.
But why shall we write it down? So who shall write it down, and into what, and why, and how we make a decision to change what we have written down next time? So
that you have a journal to look back on, to be able to quality to have a quality process into your planning process, right? So because you need to have some kind of written down journal, some written down thoughts about what went into the planning process and what assumptions did we make. Like we invest time into the planning process with the only outcome for the planning session that planning it makes the project happen more on target compared to not planning it. Because otherwise we could just skip the planning session and we would save those 2 hours or that 1 hour, right? So the underlying assumption is that having some kind of plan makes the project go faster. So we need to write down how the plan has contributed a difference from that unplanned baseline, right? So that we discussed to not do this or to do that or to do this differently, or we have set a quality bar and then we've discussed how to automate checking for that quality bar. So those steps are very important. Because otherwise, if you wing it, if you do it ad hoc, then when things don't go according to plan, or if there isn't a plan, if things don't go fast enough, given the stakeholder's temperament, then you will keep changing your mind. Like, if I have time, I will do the quality process. If I don't have time, I won't do the quality process. And if it's not written down and committed to, then once everything goes to hell, you won't really know what you agreed to do, right? So you can't go in and check your journal and check your notes for, okay, how did we plan this? What went wrong in planning, right? Because usually the only finding that you can make at that point, if you didn't write anything down, is we should have written it down. So, and then you write it down, and then next time you can actually discuss and do some kind of internal quality control for how you do planning and what the purpose of planning is and how much time is good into investing into planning. You know, I see people obsess about sprint plannings. They go in, there's 10 people, everybody wants their turn, talking, estimating, committing. And I usually come in and say, look, guys, we have 45 minutes to discuss this. Whatever we discussed, that's gonna be it for this week. Like, you know, we're not getting the planning time back. So we need to make the best with what we got. If we didn't get to discuss, 10 points out of a 15-point agenda, so be it, right? We can talk about that next week. But if you unblock a large group of people, usually that's enough. Then you disband that meeting and then you reform a smaller meeting if necessary. But committees are fairly ineffective. So it's not a good baseline. And again, we're at point number 2 about PR size, right? And PR too large, and PR is being rejected and sent back. This is all part of the quality process. Now, of course, PR size requires a personal boundary, because you can't just willy-nilly put a gate on your pipeline and say, oh, if PR larger than this, then like it has too many exceptions, right? So it has to be subjective to the reviewer, because what you're protecting is eyeballs, is your brain time, not lines of code reading.
It is. So you optimize for getting through the gate of someone else. It doesn't make sense at all, to be honest. But yeah, but you shouldn't optimize for those kind of things.
But if you have a PR, right, then you personally should have a boundary for, I won't review this.
It's not necessarily for someone else, in my opinion. You should.
What do you mean?
That's an ownership thing. So if you decide as a team we want to have small changes, not large ones, then make a small change, not a large one.
But that is a wish, right? So
No, that's
I do
great.
want to. No, but I do want to differentiate. Is that this point is primarily not about what is the right size. Like you're saying small. What I'm saying is that the boundary needs to be clear, and you need to draw a line in the sand. Even if your boundary is wrong,
You can do it for yourself, but not necessarily for the receiving person.
No, but that's my point. You do it yourself, for yourself. Like if you're reviewing it, you're doing it as the reviewer. If you're the author, you're doing it to yourself, as because you get to control how large it is, right? So, but the point is that you need to decide what that boundary is for you, not somebody else deciding it, and definitely not the author deciding it, where the author gets to decide. I, the author, have decided that my PR is small enough for you to review. That should never be part of discussion. Like that should always be the reviewer's purview of what they consider to be too large or too small. And it should be always to the author about what they consider to be in good taste to open or not open. And if there's disagreements, there will only be disagreements when those boundaries clash. And in every team, I have never seen that a team would unanimously have the same boundaries. What I have seen, though, is that the amount of clashes minimize, the disagreements go away if everybody gravitates towards small boundaries. People will still have different boundaries, but as long as
This is
everybody
what I
is,
meant.
as
If
long
you-
as everybody is in that sort of a handful of files, a few hundred lines of code sort of size, then the amount of disagreements and sort of size issues exponentially they just disappear, right? But if there's like people on your team who have like, you know, it's like one person opens up a 10,000 line of code PR, and I'm not talking about like a package JSON or something like that.
I
Like
think
a genuine code.
one is missing in this conversation is we have talked about this in the past a lot. Is you don't need a PR for everything. There are many changes out there where you don't need a PR at all, and you shouldn't bother other people with the changes you do. And you know there are changes you can do as a good software engineer, should be able to do them.
Well,
If you don't make architecture changes, if you don't make changes to anything, there, in my opinion, you shouldn't do every little thing you do, because you create a double amount of work and not be much more precise on actual quality. That's not really the case, because you're simply overwhelmed, and as soon as you are overwhelmed, overloaded, your quality drops actually, and that's one
So
of the
I just want to highlight something. PRs are a tool for humans to gain trust with the author. That's all it is. PRs are not a good quality process tool. Like if what you're focusing on is quality and economical quality, you know, efficient quality, where quality is a measure of good stuff going out fast, then PRs are the wrong tool. Right. So I just want to emphasize that. And I didn't mention that's more of a continuous delivery, continuous integration topic. And then I didn't want to touch on that. Focus for today is, for better or for worse, people have PRs. I just want to give advice on like how to pragmatically handle PRs. Even if you and I agree that PRs are not the best tool for everything, and they're definitely not a silver bullet. Well, that brings us to tip number 3, which is focus. Like the PR should have one kind of thing, right? So the PR should either be a refactor or a config change or a feature or a bit of tidying or an architecture change, or I updated one of our vendor packages. One of
feature
that
can already be too large, depending on the feature.
No, but I mean, what I mean is that APR should not be a refactor and a bit of tidying and documentation and the feature and the tests and right, like it shouldn't be that many things. Now, if you've done a sandwich and you have one commit which is a refactor, and then one commit which is a feature, and one commit that is the refactor implementation and the a little bit of documentation once, like it has those 3 elements like in 3 separate commits on one PR, I'd let that pass for a beginner who is starting to learn sort of how to discipline themselves. But in general, as you mentioned before, Adrian, not everything needs a PR. If you're refactoring, then refactorings by definition should go directly to mainline, because they should inherently be test covered, because we're refactoring things because they don't have behavior changes. So they should be inherently safe to merge. And if they aren't safe to merge, then it wasn't a refactor. If you do such a refactor that it's not safe to merge, it's probably an architecture change, right? So that you probably architecturally changed something in how you're doing the test or how the design was operating, and maybe now that introduced new risk. That is an architecture change. That is an architecture change that I would flag as closer to feature work rather than refactor. And people tend to say refactor for these kind of things. Like people use the word
People
refactor.
use refactor for any kind of change they make, which is not a new feature.
Yeah, generally,
feature.
that's actually a really good point. People tend to use, engineers tend to use the word refactor for maintenance work that they're doing on their system that wasn't a feature request. And that is I think that is categorically a too shallow sort of, like yin yang, of like, it's too binary for my taste. Like just because it's not a feature requested by your typical stakeholder doesn't mean that it's a refactor. There could be maintenance going on. There could be logging. There could be observability-related changes going on. There could be scaling issues, infra changes, SRE-related issues. There could be AI-related work going on. You might be making the code base more Claude-friendly, so you might be increasing cohesion. You might be putting guardrails in. You might be introducing or exposing or locking down certain things. That's important. And these things might not be features, but they're not a refactor. But what I can say, though, is that focus is very important. Tip number 3 is please don't wear multiple hats when you're opening up a PR. If you're doing a refactor, merge it. If you want if you want design discussions from coaches and other engineers about how you did the refactor and how to design it, sure, then you open up a PR. But as a bonus tip, right? If the PR is safe to merge, then open up a PR and merge it. Especially if you're on GitHub. Open up a PR, merge it, and then use the PR to discuss things. Because if your PR contained 3 commits, then the pull request will maintain cohesion about which 3 commits belong together. You get it to mainline, so nobody is waiting for that refactor. Like the refactor, if it's useful, can be useful immediately. And then you can also go back to the merged PR, and then you can discuss it. That is a very good strategy of how to get, and I think Shay and Martin have alluded to something like this. That discussion about maybe design, or Martin was talking about accessibility, right? Make it safe to merge it, and then discuss on the merged PR. It's like, hey, we merged something, but I would like to improve a few things. Here's a few pointers. Okay, we don't have time for everything. What do you want to improve? This one. Okay, cool. Next PR, bam, done. Right? So please differentiate between merging, like pushing to main, merging to main, deleting the feature branch, and closing the PR and deleting the PR, right? So just because you merged a PR doesn't mean that you automatically need to close it.
Yeah.
You can delete the branch, but you don't need to close the PR. The PR can still be there as evidence of which 3 commits belong together, because maybe they didn't land on main that way. Maybe somebody rebased. But at the very least, you will maintain cohesion. And maybe that cohesion of those 3 commits together will be important for the discussion rather than seeing one commit on mainline. In general, it is very difficult to have conversations about a group of commits on mainline. So PRs can be very good for like grouping a conversation. So ultimately, it is a conversation tool optimized for people having discussions, exchanging ideas. It is not a quality process. It is not a very good quality process. Some people use it for quality, of course, but it's a very clumsy hammer, right? Like software engineering is complex enough that a hammer isn't enough.
I have a hard cut today, so we have 5 minutes left on
Yeah.
my side.
If there's any more questions, now is a good time. Or if you disagree, or if you have any horror stories to share, now is a good time to share them, and we'll be able to discuss them on air.
Are there some PR friends we need to talk to?
Nowadays, what I'm seeing most often is people installing stuff like Odin or Codex or Copilot or Cloud Code with their new loop features, and they just open up PRs willy-nilly, right? Like somebody has a conversation, tags Claude in Slack, and then opens up PR, and then Claude goes off and opens up PR, basically, right? It's where there's either a human in the loop sort of out of bounds, like they don't even have the project checked out, and then Claude is coding in sort of that kind of environment, an agent, and then they sort of use the pipeline, basically, right? Like they use, like the agent would use a PR to trigger the pipeline, right? So they don't have to check it, so they don't have to maintain a work tree on some headless machine. What's important is that machines don't have feelings. So if somebody requests a change from Claude and Claude opens up a PR, it doesn't make sense to have a conversation with Claude. I just need to emphasize that if it was machine triggered and completely automated, there's no point having a conversation with that machine. Like, you should be having a conversation with the author, with the human who has triggered the process. And the feedback you should be giving is giving feedback to that human about how they're using the machine and how they could maybe scope down their work, or how they could maybe automate some parts of the process, or maybe if you can ask them for what kind of advice they would want from you. But what you shouldn't do is take over their machine and then just continue prompting their agent in their stead when you see that the agent has, when a non-engineer, when a non-tech savvy product manager picks up a task that is clearly above their pay grade when it comes to engineering prowess, and then it becomes too complex, and then another engineer has to come in and sort of take over prompting Claude. Like, that's a waste of time. That is not that is rude, and that comes back to tip number 2, which is you should have a clear boundary of, that's probably going to be a waste of your time. So you should have a very clear boundary of, no, like, I wouldn't do that process if I was coding it. So I'm also not going to be part of that process if you're coding it. I'm just going to give you feedback, and then I'll go talk to the human. And it's also back to number 1, you need to establish how the PR is useful. And if a simple Slack conversation has resulted in agents hallucinating up in 10,000 line of code PR, if you can't establish how it is useful, then just delete it. Like, don't go and review it. Like, if you can't establish that it's useful, and if you can't determine, if you did establish that it might be maybe useful and you can't really establish how to merge it safely, then delete it. There's no point. There's no point losing energy, losing sleep about a PR that everybody is concerned to merge. If it was built in such a way that it is inherently unsafe to merge, delete it. Build it in a safer way. It's going to be much faster than trying to, put something on fire and then try to
don't fall
put
to
it
the
out.
sunken cost fallacy. It's
Yeah,
especially not if you are living
again.
in age of AI and you have created it fast, then delete it and recreate it fast in a way that it makes more sense. There's no reason.
Yes.
But I have a funny anecdote. You said you shouldn't talk to an AI or chat to an AI, but to the author.
I mean, you shouldn't talk to it like it's human. Like, don't teach it.
That a person on LinkedIn made a call with me, or scheduled a call, and told me 5 minutes before the call, I can't join, but my Otter AI will join. You can just talk to my Otter AI, and then we can have next time a conversation about this. And I say, no, we don't do that. See you somewhere. It's a little bit like, I don't talk to AIs at all. I only to my own AI, which is basically my logger, but that's it. I don't want to talk. If I want to talk to a person, I never want to talk to AI, because first of all, there is a lot of lost in transmission anyway, and I want to see the person. I don't even like asynchronous. Some people who work with me know that I regularly tend to call someone instead to type to someone, especially when we have to discuss something which is just to discuss right now. Then I hate it when people start to make chats and they sit in front of each other and chat with each other. And I was like, no, let's quickly get over with it. We need to get to the next point. Otherwise, you in a team of 5 and you do that every day. Everyone is just chatting with each other and totally losing focus on the things. Get over that thing. Get room again to actually work on things and work on your things again and have done the conversation. You can speak to a person much faster than you can chat or do it via AI. Humans are incredibly fast to understand another person via multiple mediums at the same time. That's machine can't do that. And you need to leverage this. I still prefer teamwork and social interaction over any form of other communication, even in remote. I need to go.
Okay.
It was a good one. Hello, Kaloyan. Goodbye, Kaloyan. Next time.
Hi, Kaloyan. No, he's gonna be. He's in the future. He will catch up with us in the past in about 45 minutes. So I am now talking to Kaloyan in the future. So hello, Kaloyan.
Awesome
in
technology. It's time travel. It's a message in the bottle. Into the future. Okay, see you everyone. Thanks.
Okay.
See you next week, same time. Yeah, I think so.